The Sunday school lesson for November the 30th, 2025 is Who is Like God? Isaiah chapter 40, verses 12 through 17. Let's read this lesson together. Welcome, viewers and subscribers to my channel. Read with me. Have you been waiting for a quiet time for us to read the Sunday school lesson together? Well, grab your book and let's get started. Verse 12. Who hath measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and meted out heaven with the span, and comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales, and the hills in a balance? The first set, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 12. The first set of questions explored the expanse of the created order. By offering contrasting elements of the creation, the prophet effectively considered the universe's totality. His questions ranged from the water to the sky and from the earth's dust to the mountains. All creation is under God's dominion. Underlying verse 12's cosmic survey is a theology of the creation. Recalling the order of Genesis 1, Isaiah progressed from the waters to the earth. Isaiah's presentation contrasts the creation myths of the surrounding culture. The force of that contrast was most impactful in times of captivity. Many believe that military conquest reflected the superiority of the victor's gods over the gods of the defeated. The Jews exiting 70 years of exile would bear that burden. Isaiah, however, left no room for that. Those seasoned by exile were familiar with the myths that shaped Babylon's religious life. In the Babylonian creation myth, Marduk proclaimed that he measured the shape of Apsu, the freshwater deity. Recalling the Babylonian text, Isaiah asked who measured the waters in his hand. Only Yahweh exercises dominion and counsel. Isaiah's Babylonian style question then delivered a theological punch to Israel's enemy. Marduk is nothing. No one is comparable to God, including gods revered by surrounding people groups. Continuing, the prophet asked who had meted or measured the sky. Once again, those familiar with Babylon's religious life understood. Here, meted is more than the assessment of an item's dimensions. It devotes directing, determining, and ordering. The Babylonian Empire was fascinated by the night sky for that reason. Their astrologers believed the sky revealed destinies. Isaiah, however, articulated a different way. Humanity is not subject to the sky's destiny. The sky is subject to God. Yahweh alone knows and directs the future. Verse 12 also introduces a second dimension of creation theology. God is the architect of the universe, using measuring instruments and techniques. This role is also evident in two other Old Testament creation accounts. In Job chapter 38, God described how he created all things. He laid the earth's foundation, 38 and 4, fixed its dimensions and measured it, verse 5, closed the sea behind doors, verse 8, and set its limits, verse 11. As an architect designs structures on the blueprint, God created the cosmos with precision. Likewise, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 12's set of rhetorical questions echoed Proverbs chapter 8, verses 22 through 31. There, wisdom personified describes her experience of the creation. She was a spectator to God's craftsmanship, watching him construct the cosmos. Similar to Job chapter 38, she watched God set up the sky on columns. Proverbs chapter 8, verses 27 through 28a. Confine the waters, verses 28b through 29a. And create the foundations of the earth, verse 29b. By noting wisdom's place at the beginning, the text emphasizes the wisdom and purpose that motivated God's creative act. That resonates with both the wisdom orientation of Isaiah chapter 40 through 55 and the questions to follow. Verse 13, who hath directed the Spirit of the Lord, or being his counselor hath taught him? The second set, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 13. With wisdom's view of creation in mind, the prophet presented the next series of questions concerning God's will. Verse 13 offers only two questions, succinctly driving the poem forward. They focus on God's Spirit and his counsel, respectively. Verse 13 asks, who has directed God's Spirit? Here, Isaiah's point was clear. No one is above God's Spirit. But the word is more nuanced than a cursory reading suggests. This is the same verb used in verse 12, which asks, who meted out the sky? As discussed earlier, Babylonian religion understood the night sky to disclose destinies. Yet, as Isaiah retorted, God directs the movements of the sky. He alone understands our fate. In verse 13, Isaiah completed his refutation of Babylonian astrology. While the supposed source of fates follows God's directions, no one directs God's Spirit. He is free from outside manipulation. His Spirit is self directing. No one determines or measures it. With whom took he counsel, and who instructed him, and taught him in the path of judgment, and taught him knowledge, and shewed to him the way of understanding? The third set, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 14. Emphasizing his previous point, the prophet asks from whom God seeks counsel. The answer is no one. No one advises him, verse 13, and he seeks no one's advice, verse 14. In parallel fashion, the prophet questioned who can give God understanding or teach him justice, knowledge, or wisdom. No one. The God who meticulously measures the expanse of the cosmos and created all things with wisdom beside him needs no teacher. No one knows the cosmos like its creator. No one directs or informs the mind of God. Verse 15, behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing. The first set, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 15. Continuing with the measurement imagery introduced in verse 12, Isaiah assessed the gravity of the nations. Undoubtedly, a people retreating from exile felt they had a sufficient grasp of the weight of the nations, yet seemingly immense things are minute to God. If the waters fit in his hand, how much smaller must the nations be to him? The nations are specks of dust to God. Similarly, Isaiah looked toward the isles. These outermost regions of the continent are fine dust to God. No nation near or far bears weight. When we consider Israel's history, verse 15's significance quickly grows. God's people experience several ways of imposing might. Already, Israel had suffered enslavement in Egypt, periods of Canaanite submission, Assyrian deportation, and Babylonian exile. Before the returning Jews stood a coming span of imperial dominance. Babylon gave way to Persia. Persia gave way to Greece. Greece gave way to Rome. Certainly, the nation's weight was heavy, yet they are frivolous to God. They yield to Him. Verse 16. And Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor the beasts thereof sufficient for a burnt offering. The second set, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 16. The prophet then turned to one region, Lebanon. He used the famed northern region to construct a powerful argument. If even great Lebanon is insufficient, how much less are the others? Lebanon's proliferation of timber and wildlife proved valuable to Israel. Yet, even its abundance of wood and wildlife fell short. The surplus of its forests could not supply enough wood for sacrificial fires. That was true also of its animals. Although the prophet's driving point in verse 16 was the region's lack of resources before the infinite God, his example recalls a peripheral point. In Psalm 50 and 10, God declared that every animal of the forest is his, no animal sacrifice, even if it drained Lebanon of its wildlife, is sufficient. Instead, we are to offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving, verse 14, praising the architect of the cosmos for all he has done for us. Verse 17. All nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing and vanity. The third set, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 17. Concluding the section, Isaiah stated the nations are less than nothing. Unlike the creation narratives echoed in the previous lines, verse 17 describes nations that have descended from ordered creation to chaos. The nation's final descriptor, vanity, also means chaotic formlessness. The idea of formlessness first appears in the second verse of the Bible describing the preordered state. Before God spoke, the universe was chaotic and formless, and the nations appeared chaotic and formless in comparison to the architect who orders all things. The universe and all that inhabit it paled in comparison to the creator of the cosmos. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have found any parts of this audio of value or of benefit to you, please subscribe to the channel or give it a thumbs up to let me know that you are interested in seeing more of the same. Thank you for all that you do to help this channel grow.